On my birthday, my parents handed my gift to my sister and said you don't deserve it. I just stayed silent, packed my bags, and left. Weeks later, during her party, their phones buzzed, 74 missed calls. My name is Sarah, and I was 24 when this all started, though I'm 25 now. I'm the middle child in what I always thought was a loving family. My older brother Jake is 28, and my younger sister Emma is 21. Growing up, I was always the peacekeeper, the responsible one, the one who tried to keep everyone happy. Maybe that was my first mistake. Let me paint you a picture of my family dynamic. My parents, Linda and Robert, always seemed to have their favorites. Jake was the golden boy, star athlete in high school, got a full scholarship to college, landed a great job right after graduation. Emma was the baby, the princess who could do no wrong. She was beautiful, charming, and had this way of making everyone fall in love with her instantly. And then there was me. I was fine. I got decent grades, went to community college because we couldn't afford to send me away like Jake, worked part-time jobs throughout school, and generally tried to stay out of trouble. I wasn't the star, but I wasn't the problem child either. I was just there. But I thought that was okay. I thought being the steady, reliable one meant something. I thought my parents appreciated having one kid they didn't have to worry about. Boy, was I wrong. The trouble really started about 2 years ago when Emma dropped out of college halfway through her sophomore year. She'd been studying art, which already had my parents stressed about her future prospects, but then she decided she wanted to find herself and dropped out to move back home. My parents were disappointed but supportive, as always with Emma. Meanwhile, I had just graduated from community college with my associate's degree and was working full-time at a local marketing firm as a junior marketing assistant while taking online classes to finish my bachelor's degree. I'd worked various part-time jobs throughout school, retail, food service, tutoring, whatever would pay the bills and fit around my class schedule. I was proud of myself. I was the first person in my family to work full-time while going to school, and I was doing it all on my own dime. But somehow, my achievement felt invisible next to Emma's journey of self-discovery. Emma spent the next year and a half basically doing nothing. She'd sleep until noon, spend the afternoons painting or watching Netflix, go out with friends in the evenings, and repeat. My parents paid for everything, her car insurance, her phone, her spending money, everything. When I asked why she got a free ride while I was working myself to death, they said she was going through a difficult time and needed support. I bit my tongue and kept working. I figured eventually they'd see that I was the one who had her life together, not Emma. Then came my 24th birthday. October 15th, a day I'll never forget for all the wrong reasons. I had been saving up for months to buy myself a new laptop. My old one was dying, and I needed something reliable for my online classes and work. I'd been eyeing this specific MacBook Pro, the 13-inch model with 256GB storage, nothing too fancy, but it would have been perfect for what I needed. It cost $1,800, which was a huge amount for me, but I'd been setting aside money for months from my emergency fund I'd been building alongside my regular savings. 2 weeks before my birthday, I mentioned to my mom that I was planning to buy the laptop as a birthday gift to myself. She got this weird look on her face and said, "Oh honey, don't buy anything yet. Your father and I have something special planned for your birthday." I was honestly shocked. My parents hadn't gotten me a special gift in years. Usually I got a card with maybe $50 and a dinner at Applebee's. But they seemed genuinely excited about whatever they had planned, so I waited. The morning of my birthday arrived, and I woke up actually feeling optimistic. Maybe this would be the year my parents finally acknowledged everything I'd been working toward. Maybe they'd finally see me as more than just the middle child who didn't cause problems. I came downstairs to find my whole family in the living room. There was a big wrap box on the coffee table, clearly the shape and size of a laptop box. My heart started racing. They'd gotten me the laptop I'd been wanting. They'd actually listened and gotten me something I needed and wanted. "Happy birthday, Sarah," my mom said, but there was something off about her tone. She seemed nervous, almost guilty. "Thanks," I said, looking at the box. "Can I open it?" My parents exchanged a look. My dad cleared his throat. "Sarah, we need to talk to you first." I should have known right then that something was wrong. But I was still caught up in the excitement of thinking they'd gotten me this amazing gift. "Emma's been having a really hard time lately," my mom started. "She's been feeling lost, and you know how important art is to her healing process." I nodded, still not understanding where this was going. "We think it would mean a lot to her if she had the right tools to pursue her passion," my dad continued. "She's been using that old iPad to do her digital art, but she really needs something more powerful." The pieces started clicking together in my brain, but I refused to believe it. Surely they weren't about to do what I thought they were about to do. Emma was sitting on the other couch, and she had this look on her face, not quite smug, but definitely not surprised by whatever was coming. "So we decided," my mom continued, "that we should give this gift to Emma instead. You're already doing so well, Sarah. You have your job and you're so responsible. Emma needs this more than you do." The words hit me like a physical blow. I stared at them, waiting for the punchline, waiting for them to say just kidding and laugh. But they didn't. You want to give my birthday gift to Emma? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. It's not really your gift, honey, my dad said. We bought it, so we get to decide who should have it. And we think Emma deserves it more. Deserves it more. Those words are burned into my memory. But it's my birthday, I said, and I hated how small and pathetic my voice sounded. You're 24 years old, Sarah, my mom said, and now there was an edge of irritation in her voice. You're too old to be acting entitled about birthday presents. Emma is going through a difficult time, and this laptop will help her build a portfolio for art school. What art school? I asked. This was the first I'd heard of Emma wanting to go back to school. Emma spoke up for the first time. I've been thinking about applying to some programs, she said. Digital art programs. I need professional equipment to put together a good application. I looked at my brother Jake, hoping for some support, but he was staring at his phone, clearly wanting to be anywhere else. This is ridiculous, I said, my voice getting stronger. You told me you had something special planned for my birthday, and now you're giving it to Emma? Again? Sarah, don't be dramatic, my dad said. You don't deserve this attitude. We work hard for our money, and we'll spend it how we see fit. Emma needs this laptop more than you do. You already have a job, you can buy your own laptop if you want one so badly. You don't deserve this attitude. Not you don't deserve to be upset. You don't deserve to have an attitude about your birthday gift being given to your sister. I looked around the room at my family. My parents looked annoyed with me for causing a fuss. Emma looked uncomfortable but not uncomfortable enough to speak up and say this was wrong. Jake was still on his phone. I realized in that moment that I had two choices. I could scream and cry and throw a fit, which would just confirm their belief that I was being dramatic and entitled. Or I could take whatever dignity I had left and remove myself from the situation. I chose dignity. Okay, I said quietly. Okay? My mom asked, surprised. Okay. Give Emma the laptop. It's fine. I could see the relief on their faces. Crisis averted. Sarah was being reasonable, as always. I'm glad you understand, honey, my mom said. Maybe we can take you out to dinner later to celebrate. Maybe, I said. I went upstairs to my room and closed the door. I sat on my bed and stared at the wall for what felt like hours. I wasn't crying, I was beyond crying. I was numb. But as I sat there, something shifted inside me. The numbness started to transform into something else. Clarity, maybe. Or determination. I realized that I had been waiting my entire life for my parents to see me, to value me, to treat me like I mattered. And they never would. Not because I wasn't good enough, but because they had decided long ago that I was the child who didn't need anything. I was so responsible and independent that I didn't deserve the same care and attention as my siblings. Well, if they wanted me to be independent, I'd show them what independence really looked like. I opened my laptop, my dying 5-year-old laptop that I'd been nursing along for months, and started looking for apartments. I had some money saved up, not just the laptop fund but also my emergency fund I'd been building. Between the two, I had enough for a security deposit and several months of rent if I was careful. I'd been living at home to save money while finishing school, but I had enough to get my own place. By dinner time, I had found a small studio apartment about 20 minutes away and submitted an online application. The landlord called me that evening and said that based on my employment verification and credit score, I was approved, but I'd need to come sign the lease and pay the deposits within 48 hours if I wanted it. I went downstairs for dinner, and my family was in a great mood. Emma was already setting up her new laptop, gushing about all the things she was going to create. My parents were beaming at her like proud peacocks. How's the laptop, Emma? I asked pleasantly. Oh, Sarah, it's amazing. Thank you so much for understanding. I know this is going to help me so much with my art. Thank you for understanding. Not I'm sorry this was supposed to be your birthday gift. Not this situation sucks and I feel bad about it. Thank you for understanding. I'm glad you like it, I said. After dinner, I told my parents I was going out for a drive to clear my head. They barely looked up from watching Emma play with her new MacBook Pro. I went and looked at the apartment. It was small but clean, in a safe neighborhood and within my budget. I signed the lease and paid the deposits on the spot. Over the next 3 days, I quietly started moving my things. Not the big stuff, I didn't want them to notice what I was doing. But I moved my important documents, my clothes, my personal items. Anything that really mattered to me. My parents didn't notice. They were too busy helping Emma set up her art studio in the basement and talking about her bright future. On Thursday evening, 3 days after my birthday, I packed the last of my things into my car. I wrote a letter and left it on my bed. The letter said, Mom, Dad, Jake, and Emma, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. I've moved into my own apartment. I want you to know that this isn't about the laptop. It's about the fact that you gave away my birthday gift and told me I didn't deserve to be upset about it. It's about the pattern of behavior that led to that moment. I've spent my entire life trying to be the good daughter, the one you didn't have to worry about. I worked full-time while going to school, paid my own way, never asked for help, never caused drama. And somehow, that made me the child who deserved less, not more. You told me I don't deserve things because I'm responsible and independent. Well, you're right about one thing, I'm independent. Independent enough to not need people in my life who don't value me. Don't try to contact me. When you decide that I actually matter to you as much as Jake and Emma do, you'll know where to find me. Until then, I'm done being invisible in my own family. Sarah. P.S. Emma, I hope the MacBook Pro helps with your art. Maybe you can create something about what it feels like to take things that don't belong to you. I left the letter on my pillow and walked out of the house I'd grown up in. I didn't look back. The first few weeks in my new apartment were hard, but not in the way I expected. I thought I'd be lonely and sad. Instead, I felt free. For the first time in my life, I was living in a space where I mattered. Where my needs came first. Where I didn't have to compete for attention or affection. I threw myself into work and school. Without the constant drama and emotional exhaustion of my family dynamics, I had so much more energy for everything else. My performance at work improved dramatically. I was getting better grades. I was even sleeping better. My parents tried calling and texting at first. The messages started off angry, "You're being ridiculous and dramatic," then moved to frustrated, "We don't understand why you're doing this," and finally landed on manipulative, "You're tearing this family apart." I didn't respond to any of them. Jake called once. "Sarah, this is crazy," he said in his voicemail. "You need to come home and work this out. Mom and Dad are really upset." I didn't call him back either. Emma didn't try to contact me at all. I wasn't surprised. After about a month, the calls and texts stopped coming. I guess they figured I'd come crawling back eventually. After all, I was the responsible one. I didn't cause drama. I'd come to my senses and apologize for overreacting. But I didn't come crawling back. Instead, I kept building my new life. I got a promotion at work. Turns out when you're not emotionally drained all the time, you perform better. Over the following months, my supervisor Jennifer noticed the change and started giving me more challenging projects. I finished my online classes and graduated with my bachelor's degree. I started dating a guy named Marcus for my work who was kind and funny and treated me like I mattered. For the first time in my life, I was genuinely happy. 2 months after I left, I found out through mutual friends that Emma had dropped her art school plans and was now talking about becoming a yoga instructor. The MacBook Pro was apparently gathering dust while she decided what her next passion would be. I wasn't even surprised. 3 months after I left, those same friends told me that my parents were starting to complain about Emma. Apparently, without me there to handle things quietly in the background, they were noticing how much Emma didn't contribute to the household. Who knew? I still didn't reach out. 4 months after I left, something interesting happened. I got a call from my great Aunt Helen, my mom's aunt who lived about an hour away. I'd always liked Aunt Helen. She was sharp, funny, and didn't take crap from anyone. "Sarah," she said, "I heard through the family grapevine that you moved out after some kind of fight with your parents." "Something like that," I said carefully. I didn't know how much she knew or whose side she was on. "Well, I want you to know that whatever happened, I think you're a smart girl for getting out on your own. Your parents have been babying Emma for years, and it hasn't done her any favors." I was shocked. "You think that?" "Honey, I've been watching this family dynamic for years. You've been the responsible one since you were 12 years old. It's not healthy for anyone, especially not you." Aunt Helen and I started talking regularly after that. She became like a surrogate parent to me, someone who was proud of my accomplishments, who asked about my life, who treated me like I mattered. It was through her that I learned what was happening with my family. According to Aunt Helen, things at home were getting tense. Without me there as the responsible child, the burden of Emma's laziness was falling more heavily on my parents. They were starting to push her to get a job or go back to school, and Emma was pushing back. There were fights. Drama. The kind of stuff I used to absorb and deflect. "Your mother called me last week," Aunt Helen told me during one of our conversations. "She's starting to realize how much you did to keep that household running smoothly." "Did she say anything about me coming home?" I asked. "She hinted around it. I told her that if she wanted you back, she needed to apologize for how she treated you. Really apologize, not just sweep it under the rug." "And what did she say to that?" "She got defensive. Started talking about how you were being dramatic and they were just trying to help Emma. I told her she raised a good daughter in you, and if she couldn't see that, it was her loss." I loved Aunt Helen. Around this time, something else happened that really drove home how different my life had become. I ran into my high school friend Jessica at the grocery store. We'd been close in school but had drifted apart over the years, especially after she went away to college while I stayed local. "Sarah," she said, giving me a huge hug. "I haven't seen you in forever. How are you?" We ended up getting coffee and catching up for 2 hours. As I told her about my new job, my apartment, my relationship with Marcus, she kept saying things like, "You seem so confident now and you're glowing, you look amazing." "I feel amazing," I told her honestly. "I feel like myself for the first time in my adult life." When I mentioned that I'd moved out of my parents' house, she nodded knowingly. I always wondered about that, she said. Even in high school, you seemed like you were carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. Your parents were always so focused on Emma's drama or Jake's achievements. I used to feel bad for you. It was validating to hear that someone else had noticed the family dynamic I'd grown up thinking was normal. Jessica and I started hanging out regularly after that, and through her I met a whole group of people who became genuine friends. For the first time in my life, I had a social circle that had nothing to do with my family obligations. These new friendships showed me what healthy relationships looked like. People who were genuinely interested in my thoughts and feelings. People who celebrated my successes without comparing them to someone else's. People who offered support when I was struggling without making me feel like a burden. Marcus was amazing through all of this. He never pushed me to reconcile with my family, but he also never badmouthed them. He just supported whatever decision I made and helped me build confidence in my own judgment. You know what I love about you? He told me one evening as we were walking through the park near my apartment. You never make yourself smaller to make other people comfortable. You just are who you are. I almost laughed at that, because for most of my life I had made myself smaller constantly. But I realized he was right about who I'd become. Living on my own had allowed me to take up space in my own life. Meanwhile, the reports from Aunt Helen about my family were getting more interesting. Apparently, my absence was having effects I hadn't anticipated. Your mother called me crying last week, Aunt Helen told me during one of our regular phone calls. She said the house feels empty without you. She keeps expecting to see you in the kitchen in the mornings before work, or to hear you coming in from your evening classes. She never seemed to notice those things when I lived there, I pointed out. That's exactly what I told her, Aunt Helen said with a chuckle. I said, Linda, you didn't appreciate what you had when you had it. She didn't like hearing that. Aunt Helen also told me that my parents had started asking Emma to help more around the house. Your mother expected her to step up and fill the gap you left, she said. But Emma's not you, Sarah. She doesn't see what needs to be done and just do it. She has to be asked, and then she complains about it. I felt a petty satisfaction hearing that. For years, I'd been handling so many household responsibilities that they'd become invisible. Apparently, now that I was gone, those tasks were very visible indeed. Your father mentioned that he didn't realize how much you did to keep things running smoothly, Aunt Helen continued. He said he keeps finding things that need to be done that he never thought about before, bills that need organizing, appointments that need scheduling, maintenance tasks around the house. It turned out I'd been the family's unofficial household manager and no one had noticed until I stopped doing it. 6 months after I left, Emma apparently started dating some guy that my parents didn't approve of. He was older, had tattoos, and didn't have a steady job. According to Aunt Helen, there were screaming matches about him coming to the house. I couldn't help but think about how different my parents' reaction was to Emma's questionable boyfriend versus their reaction to Marcus when I brought him home for dinner once. They'd been polite but cold, asking him pointed questions about his career prospects and whether he was serious about me. But Emma's boyfriend was causing actual problems, and they were bending over backward to handle the situation delicately so as not to push Emma away. The double standard was so obvious it was almost funny. When I was dating someone stable and kind, they were suspicious and unwelcoming. When Emma was dating someone who was clearly bad news, they were walking on eggshells trying not to upset her. Around this time, I also started therapy. I'd been thinking about it for months, but I'd always told myself I didn't need it, that I was handling everything fine. But Marcus gently suggested that talking to someone might help me process everything that had happened with my family. Dr. Lisa Martinez was a family therapist who specialized in adult children dealing with dysfunctional family dynamics. Our first session was eye-opening. Tell me about your role in your family, she said. I was the responsible one, I said automatically. What did that mean, day to day? As I started listing all the things I'd done to keep my family functioning, mediating arguments, managing household tasks, being the emotional support for everyone else, never causing problems or asking for help, Dr. Chen nodded knowingly. Sarah, she said gently, what you're describing isn't being responsible. It's being parentified. You were forced into an adult role as a child, taking care of your parents' emotional needs and your siblings' needs instead of having your own needs met. The word parentified hit me like a lightning bolt. I'd never heard the term before, but it perfectly described my experience. I hadn't just been the responsible child, I'd been functioning as a third parent in the household. Children who are parentified often struggle with feeling invisible or unimportant, Dr. Martinez continued. They learn that their worth comes from what they do for others, not from who they are as people. I started crying right there in her office. It was like someone had finally put words to something I'd felt my whole life but never understood. Over the next several months, therapy helped me understand so much about my family dynamics and my own patterns. I learned about concepts like golden child and scapegoat and lost child, different roles that children take on in dysfunctional families. Emma was clearly the golden child, Jake was the successful one who escaped, and I was the lost child who kept everything running smoothly in the background. Therapy also helped me understand that my parents' treatment of me wasn't actually about me at all. It was about their own issues, their own inability to see and meet all their children's needs equally. The fact that you were easy to parent doesn't mean you needed less parenting, Dr. Martinez told me. If anything, a child who's naturally responsible and independent needs parents who make sure they're not taking on too much, who actively nurture their emotional needs, who celebrate their achievements. Your parents took the easy path with you, and that wasn't fair. These insights were both liberating and painful. Liberating because they confirmed that my feelings were valid, I really had been treated unfairly. Painful because they meant accepting that my parents had failed me in some fundamental ways, and that the family dynamic I'd grown up in wasn't normal or healthy. But the therapy was also empowering. I learned to set boundaries, to recognize my own needs, to ask for what I wanted instead of just hoping someone would notice and offer. These skills were transforming my relationship with Marcus, my friendships, and my work relationships. 7 months after I left, Jake got engaged to his longtime girlfriend Rebecca. I found out through Facebook. I was happy for him, but it stung that I had to learn about it through social media. A few days later, Jake called me. Sarah, he said, I know things are weird right now, but Rebecca and I are getting married next spring. I want you to be there. Congratulations, I said. I'm really happy for you both. Will you come to the wedding? I thought about it. Will I be treated like a member of the family, or will I be treated like a black sheep who disrupted everyone's peace by having feelings about being mistreated? Jake was quiet for a long moment. I think Mom and Dad are starting to realize they messed up. Starting to realize? It's been 7 months, Jake. I know. But maybe this could be a chance to fix things? I'm not the one who needs to fix things, I said. I'm not the one who gave away someone's birthday gift and told them they didn't deserve to be upset about it. You're right, Jake said quietly. You're absolutely right. I should have said something that day. I was a coward. I was surprised by his honesty. Yeah, you were. I'm sorry, Sarah. I'm really, really sorry. I don't blame you for leaving. It was the first real apology I'd gotten from anyone in my family. Thank you, I said. That means a lot. Will you think about the wedding? I'll think about it. 8 months after I left, Aunt Helen called with news. Emma and your parents had a huge blowout, she said. Apparently she and that boyfriend of hers were caught doing drugs in the basement. Your parents kicked him out of the house and told Emma she needed to choose between him and living at home. What did she choose? She moved in with him. Your parents are devastated. I felt a complex mix of emotions. Part of me was sad for my parents. I knew they loved Emma, even if their way of showing it had been destructive. Part of me was frustrated that it had taken Emma actually causing serious problems for them to set any boundaries. And part of me was vindicated. This was what happened when you enabled someone instead of teaching them responsibility. How are they handling it? I asked. Not well. Your mother keeps saying she doesn't understand how both her daughters ended up so far away from her. Both her daughters. As if what happened with Emma and what happened with me were the same thing. Does she really not see the difference? I asked Aunt Helen. I think she's starting to, Aunt Helen said. But you know your mother. She doesn't like to admit when she's wrong. 9 months after I left, I got a text from my mom. Just one line, I miss you. I stared at the text for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond, to take it as an opening to rebuild our relationship. But I knew my mom. I knew that I miss you wasn't the same as I was wrong or I'm sorry. It was a bit for me to come back without her having to acknowledge what had driven me away in the first place. I didn't respond. 11 months after I left, I got the call that changed everything. It was a Tuesday evening in early September. I was at home with Marcus, cooking dinner and laughing about something silly one of our coworkers had done that day. We were happy. Really, genuinely happy. My phone rang. It was Aunt Helen, and she sounded upset. Sarah, she said, I need to tell you something, and it's going to be hard to hear. My blood went cold. What happened? Emma overdosed. She's in the hospital. The world seemed to tilt sideways. Is she okay? She's alive, but it was close. Really close. She's been in the ICU for 2 days now. Your parents are at the hospital. I sank down onto my couch, Marcus immediately coming over to put his arm around me. What happened? I asked. From what I understand, she and that boyfriend were using something stronger than marijuana. Heroin, I think. He found her unconscious and called 911. Heroin. My baby sister, the princess, the one who was supposed to be going through a difficult time that required everyone's patience and support, was using heroin. The doctors say she's stable now, but she was unconscious for almost 36 hours. It was touch and go for a while. I have to go, I said. Sarah, wait, Aunt Helen said. There's more. More? Your parents. They're not handling this well. Your mother is hysterical. She keeps saying this is all her fault, that she failed as a parent. Your father is just broken. And they keep asking for you. Asking for me? They want you to come to the hospital. They need you, Sarah. I felt a familiar pull, the old instinct to drop everything and rush in to fix whatever crisis my family was facing. But something stopped me. Why do they need me? I asked. I'm just the daughter who didn't deserve a birthday gift, remember? I'm just the one who's too responsible to need support or care. Aunt Helen was quiet for a moment. You have every right to be angry, she said finally. But your sister might die, Sarah. Those words hit me like a sledgehammer. Emma might die. My annoying, spoiled, thoughtless little sister might actually die. I'll call the hospital and find out what's happening, I said. But I'm not rushing over there just so they can use me as emotional support while continuing to treat me like I don't matter. That's fair, Aunt Helen said. But Sarah? I think this might be the wake-up call your parents needed. I called the hospital and spoke to a nurse who told me that Emma was awake now but still in the ICU for monitoring. She was stable but the next 48 hours would be important to make sure there were no complications. I sat in my apartment with Marcus, trying to figure out what to do. Part of me felt like I should go to the hospital. She was my sister, despite everything. But part of me was afraid that if I showed up, my parents would just fall back into old patterns, using me to manage their emotions while never actually acknowledging how they treated me. I decided to wait. The next morning, Jake called me. Sarah, please, he said, and I could hear that he'd been crying. I know you're angry, and I know you have every right to be, but we need you here. How is she? Better. She's been moved out of the ICU this morning. But Sarah, Mom and Dad are a mess. They keep talking about how they failed Emma, how they enabled her, how they should have seen this coming. And they keep talking about you. About how they drove away the one daughter who had her life together. About how they need you here but they don't know how to ask after everything that happened. I felt tears starting to form. They drove me away because they told me I didn't deserve to be treated with basic respect. I know. We all know that now. Even Emma knows it. Emma knows? When she was more alert yesterday, one of the first things she said was that she was sorry about your birthday. She said she's known all along that what happened was wrong, but she was too selfish to speak up. I was quiet for a long moment. Sarah, Jake continued, I'm not asking you to come back and pretend nothing happened. I'm not asking you to fix everything for them. I'm just asking you to consider giving them a chance to apologize. Really apologize. And if I come and they don't really apologize? If they just want me there for emotional support without actually acknowledging what they did? Then you can leave again, and I'll support you completely. I thought about it for the rest of the day. Finally, that evening, I decided to go to the hospital. Not to rush in and save everyone, but to see if my family was finally ready to treat me like a person who mattered. I walked into the hospital room to find Emma awake but looking terrible. She was pale and thin, with dark circles under her eyes. My parents were sitting beside her bed, and they looked like they'd aged years in the past day. When they saw me, my mother started crying immediately. Sarah, she said, oh, Sarah, I'm so sorry. I stood in the doorway, not moving closer. Sorry for what? She looked confused by the question, like she expected a general apology to be sufficient. I need you to be specific, I said. What are you sorry for? My father spoke up. We're sorry for how we treated you. For taking your birthday gift and giving it to Emma. For telling you that you didn't deserve to be upset about it. It was a start, but I needed more. And? I prompted. And for years of treating you like you mattered less than your siblings, my mother said through her tears. For expecting you to be responsible and independent while babying Emma. For using your reliability as an excuse to give you less attention and care. I felt something loosening in my chest. They were actually saying the words I needed to hear. We know we don't deserve your forgiveness, my father continued. We know we drove you away. But losing you made us realize how much we took you for granted. How much we need you in our lives. Emma spoke up from the bed, her voice weak but clear. Sarah, I'm sorry too. I knew what happened on your birthday was wrong. I should have told them to give you the laptop and that I'd wait for my own. But I wanted it, and I was selfish, and I let them give me something that should have been yours. I looked around the room at my family. They all looked genuinely remorseful, genuinely broken by what had happened. I don't know if I can trust you, I said honestly. You hurt me really badly. For years, but especially that day. We know, my mother said. We'll do whatever it takes to earn your trust back. Even if it takes years? I asked. Even if it takes years, my father confirmed. I walked closer to Emma's bed. She looked so small and fragile. Are you going to get clean? I asked her. Yes, she said without hesitation. I'm going to a 90-day inpatient program as soon as the doctors clear me medically. Real rehab, for as long as it takes. And you're not going to expect Mom and Dad to pay for everything while you do it? Emma actually smiled a little at that. I figured you'd make them cut me off financially. It's probably what I need. I looked at my parents. Is that true? Are you going to make Emma take responsibility for her own recovery? Yes, my mother said firmly. We've been enabling her for years. We see that now. It nearly killed her. We talked for another hour. It wasn't a magical reconciliation, there was too much hurt for that. But it was a real conversation, maybe the first real conversation we'd had as a family in years. When I left the hospital that night, I felt something I hadn't felt in relation to my family in a long time: hope. Over the next few months, we slowly rebuilt our relationships. Emma completed her 90-day inpatient program, then moved into a sober living house for another 3 months before moving back home with strict conditions. She got a job at a coffee shop and started paying my parents rent to live at home. My parents started going to family therapy to understand how their parenting had contributed to the problems. And me? I stayed in my apartment. I kept my boundaries. I didn't rush back into being the family fixer. But I started having dinner with them once a week. I answered their calls. I let them back into my life, gradually and on my terms. The MacBook Pro, by the way, was still sitting in Emma's room, barely used. For my 25th birthday, almost exactly a year after the birthday that changed everything, my parents gave it to me with a card that said, "This should have been yours from the beginning. We're sorry it took us so long to realize that all our children deserve to be treated with love and respect." Emma had added her own note: "I hope someday I can be as strong and independent as you are. Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I didn't deserve your loyalty." I'm not going to lie and say everything is perfect now. Family relationships are complicated, and it takes time to heal years of hurt. But we're in a good place. Emma has been clean for over a year now and is talking about going back to school, this time with a realistic plan and her own funding. My parents have learned to treat all their children as individuals with their own needs and deserving of equal respect. And me? I learned that sometimes you have to be willing to lose your family to save yourself. Sometimes you have to show people what life looks like without you in it for them to realize what you bring to their lives. I also learned that I'm stronger than I ever thought I was. That I can build a life that makes me happy, with or without my family's approval. But most importantly, I learned that I deserve better than being invisible in my own family. And now, finally, they know it too. The 74 missed calls? Those came the night Emma overdosed, when my parents suddenly realized that the daughter they'd taken for granted was the one they needed most. By the time I saw them, it was too late to answer. But maybe that was for the best. Maybe they needed to sit with the reality of what they'd lost before they could truly appreciate what they were trying to get back. Sometimes the best revenge isn't dramatic or immediate. Sometimes it's just living well without the people who didn't appreciate you, until they realize what they've lost. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, that realization comes before it's too late to fix things. I got my family back, but more importantly, I never lost myself in the process. And that, I think, is the real victory.